Good evening and welcome to the Foxboro Conservation Commission meeting on April 29th, 2024 at the Gala Meeting Room, Town Hall, Foxboro. This meeting will be broadcast live and recorded by Foxboro Cable Access. And welcome. With that, I'll open the meeting. Do we have any public comments at this time?
I'm not exactly sure how, is the public comments just an opportunity to share something, or?
Sure. Come up, use the microphone as we're being recorded.
I'm not sure if Diana had put in any of your packets, a copy of a sign on Lakeview Road that belongs to the Conservation Commission that has been leaning against a tree for almost a year. Is
Just
it in
for
there?
the record, could you state your name?
Yes,
So-
I'm very sorry. My name is William Milhomme. I live at 33 Lakeview Road in Foxborough, Massachusetts.
Okay, thank you. Now, which sign is this? We have
Okay.
several, we have a number of them that are leaning
All
on.
right, so if you don't have it with you,
It's this one.
unfortunately, here, just take a look.
Okay.
Okay?
It's the one I emailed it to you guys.
Yes,
It's this one.
okay, yeah, right.
You know what it is? Yeah, right, okay. So that sign's been like that for almost a year. And I wish I had packets for all of you, but maybe every other person would
Yeah,
be.
sure.
Okay?
No, one of these two. No, we got one.
You have you seen this, sir? You've seen it. Here you go. And then I'll give you mine when I'm done. Basically, if you're unfamiliar with Foxborough
Could you
history-
use the microphone
Sorry,
because,
I'm not used to this. I'm a stand-up kind of guy.
okay,
All right, so if you go about maybe 5 pages into this, you'll see some pictures of trolley cars. Now, those trolley cars used to come all the way, you could go from Boston all the way to Lakeview Park back in the early decades of the Lakeview Borough. Now, if you're unfamiliar, then if you turn the page, you'll see something called the loop. And the loop was the trolley car would come down, would go Lakeview Road, it would go on a spur line, it would go down to the bottom, and then it would actually go around, drop people off for the pavilion. And there was a bandstand and everything. So this is fine. I'm not looking for anyone to bring back this because it would be an incredible expense to do that. But I'm just interested in having the sign fixed, that's all. Behind the sign, the woods, there's trees falling down, it's really kind of messy. It's really the first thing people see when they're coming down Lakeview Road. And just think of the pavilion with the weddings and everything goes on there. That's the first thing they see, is a sign on it's leaning against a tree. And I just want to see if it's possible to have that sign repaired. And just that's simple as that.
I will say, our previous agent did all of those signs, Dave Risch, I don't know if.
Oh, I know him very well.
Yeah.
I'm a lifelong resident.
Okay, so you knew Dave, and he was capable of doing that. Our present agent is not capable of doing that, so we're kind of handicapped. So if you could think of a Boy Scout that would like to do that as a project, that would be more than helpful. We could do that. Dave used to have some wood stored away, but I don't think that's there anymore.
Yeah. I did talk to Diana. There is no Boy Scout right now looking to do a project like that. So let me ask you this. Can a citizen just repair it themselves?
Certainly,
Okay.
certainly, more than,
All right.
if you have the wherewithal and the capabilities, go for it.
It would take a town department truck 15 minutes to fix it, really. But if you're asking me to go down there with a shovel and dig a hole and put the sign back in, I will do that. But I would also like to see a little bit of the woods cleared because it just doesn't give a good impression as far as I'm concerned of people coming down Lakeview Road. And like I said, I've been there for 44 years. I learned to swim there in the 50s, so I know it very well. And so that's all I'm asking. If you want me to fix it, well, then I will do my best to fix it. But if I could be
Give me a
told,
call when you're going down there, and I'll see if I can come down and we can work together.
I'm sorry, sir,
I say, give me a call when you're ready to
Okay.
go, and maybe we can work together on it.
and is that your name, Robert?
Oh, yeah, that's me,
Okay.
myself, and I, the three of us. Tell Diana she can.
No, Diana, who
Okay.
didn't get one? Someone that didn't get one?
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
It's 7:05 PM. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public meeting on Monday, April 29th, 2024, at 7:05 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, or via Zoom, on a request for determination of applicability filed by Mank LLC for removal and stump grinding of approximately 20 dead, dangerous, and unwanted trees at 12 Creighton Lane, Assessor's Map 044, Parcel 038, within 100 feet of a wetland resource area. The application is available for public inspection at the Conservation Office at Town Hall. Do we, come on up, use the mics, please. Again, for the record, identify yourselves.
My name is David Clayman. I live at 2 Old Ridge Road in Canton, and this is in reference to 12 Creighton Lane. My name is David Clayman, and this is my wife Bonnie. We are moving to Foxborough in order to be closer to our son Nicholas, who lives at a group home at 68 Baker Street. He is 28 years old and has cerebral palsy, epilepsy, and vision loss, and requires specialized care. Currently, we pick him up 4 to 5 times a week and bring him to our home in Canton so he can spend time with his family. While it is only about a 35 to 40-minute round trip, it is twice each day, and it is difficult for us during the winter months or if it is raining. 12 Creighton Lane is roughly a half a mile from him, and we are looking to not only renovate the existing home to make it safe for him, but for our 2 grandchildren who currently live with us. Tonight, we're in front of you for tree removal, but we will be back in front of Foxborough Concom and ZBA at a close future date looking for assistance with a garage suitable for him and his needs. We are seeking permission to remove roughly 22 trees on the property, most of which are within the 100-foot buffer zone from the reservoir. We are asking for several reasons. First, there are several trees which are angled over the house, which pose a danger to the home and anyone in it if they ever fell. One is a very large pine tree which would clearly destroy the home if it came down. Second, we have an approved building permit for the proposed work on the house, and we need access for dumpsters and materials in order to get close to the house. Right now, there is no real way of getting a truck backed up to the house. Third, several are dead, and we want them removed for safety's sake for our grandchildren. One dead tree near the reservoir on the backside of the home is full of some type of flying bugs, and it's basically rotting out. Fourth, several will need to be removed to make space for the new garage and the driveway. I have marked the trees with a red caution tape that we are requesting to be removed, so you can do a site visit if needed to see the actual trees we want removed. We have some experience with this process, as we did a very similar project in Sharon directly on Lake Massapog about 10 years ago. In working with their conservation agent, Greg Meister, we were granted permission to remove many trees on the property in return for planting an equal amount of trees, shrubs, and bushes, which he had given us from a list of approved wetlands plants. We did this, and both sides were happy. We are willing to do the same on this project as a requirement for the approval. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to being your neighbors.
Thank you. I was down there, you do have a number of dead and rotten trees.
Yeah.
I agree. The only requirement, and John, I'll let you chime in on that, instead of stump removal, just cut them even with the base and just leave the stumps there, the ones that are close to the reservoir.
Could you meet us out there and show me which ones? The only thing with cutting them down, they do pose a tripping hazard. I have a son who
He's visually impaired.
and you know, we want to try to get that property as level as possible.
He doesn't look down when he walks, so it can be an issue with tripping.
So I guess my question is, if that's the case, what I'm understanding here is you probably want to grade the yard, right?
I mean, somewhat. We're not going to grade it. You can't, it grades down towards the reservoir, so you can only do so much grading, where if you grade it up too high, the water's going to get into the house. So it's really just flattening it out if there's a low spot or a high spot, but not really anything changing the grade to any significant change. It would be filling in any low spots or high spots, and I'd be more than happy to walk the property with you.
And I took a look out there to take a look at it, and there are some trees that are right on the bank of the pond, and the only concern I would have is bank stabilization and making sure
Okay.
that area is secure.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge is, I guess, you're trying to do this through a request for determination, and most of the time when you're within, 25 feet of a resource area, typically, the requirements and requests are that you leave the stumps intact. But if you do intend to come in with a, notice of intent application for, I guess, a garage expansion project, I guess that's what you're looking to do, is that?
Well, no, we're currently going to be renovating the actual existing home.
Okay.
You gonna be expanding it?
No, not expanding the footprint, but putting a master bedroom on the second floor. We were given 378 square foot by zoning law, and that's what we're adding to the house.
Would you be adding a deck on the back?
No deck.
Is the garage going to be a little bit bigger?
So the garage is going to be larger, but we're going to get that outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. So the existing garage is basically on the street, within 13 feet of the street. And we'd be putting this back towards the beginning of the street, which is coming outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. Currently, the existing garage is inside that 100-foot buffer zone.
So which way are you bringing it?
We would be putting it towards
It would go south.
southbound, yeah, towards
Oh, okay.
15 feet off the lot.
You'd move it that far away from the 100-foot, which is,
Yeah.
looks like it's about 20 feet.
We were limited by the square foot of the lot and the septic system. So without replacing the septic, there's only one good spot for the garage, and that's back towards, I don't know what this cross street is, but up to, before you,
It's Creighton Ave.
Creighton
towards
Ave.
Creighton Ave.
Creighton
Yeah.
Ave.
I guess my question is, a lot of these projects where you're taking down trees, some of them are ultimately then, for instance, the afterthought is, I want to basically create a yard. Is that kind of what you entail on doing? I guess that's my question.
When you say yard, what do you mean? Grass? I mean,
Like, for instance.
there's a yard there now.
Yeah, I know. But for instance, the area where you're going to have trees and you're going to cut those trees down, obviously, you want to expand that area potentially and have that be potentially at some point lawn space. Is that correct?
Not necessarily lawn space. I'm willing to work with the town to replant other plants in there. I don't really need like a sodded lawn of that type, if that's what you, but
You want to remove all the trees and the stumps that you.
correct, that would,
you marked.
that I need to do the construction. I don't want a tripping hazard. The ones behind the house that you said, I have no problem. We'll work around that if we have to.
Correct.
I understand your concerns.
Yeah.
But the ones towards the front of the house, I don't know if I could, make that concession based on, we have a safety issue here.
I mean, I'd be okay because, for instance, obviously, the ones that are within 25 feet of the pond, those stumps should be left intact
Okay.
because they're holding the bank stability.
Yep.
The ones that are, further away outside the 25 foot, I don't mind you with stumping and grinding them as long as there's, erosion controls that are put up. So that way there's no sedimentation that goes to the pond, okay?
Sure.
So as long as that's in place, then, for instance, I don't have an issue with that. But, at the end of the day, I don't make any decisions, the commission does, so.
That's fine, but I have no problem meeting you out there and going over what you're looking for and working with you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Were you down there, John?
I was.
Yeah. Can you meet after the 1 o'clock meeting
Yeah,
Wednesday?
yeah, that works.
I'm around Wednesday.
Okay.
Do you have a number or?
So I have a meeting at 1 and a meeting at 2. So I guess 3 o'clock would work probably best.
Okay.
A little bit before 3.
I'll meet you Wednesday at 3 at the house.
Yeah.
And before I leave, give you my cell just in case you have any changes in your
You can just
schedule.
get in contact with Diana.
Okay. You have any other questions?
I just want to say thank you for coming in before you did the cutting.
Oh, I would never do that.
Well, we've
Yeah.
had issues, so it's nice to see.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like I said before, the number that I pull out, I'm more than happy to plant the equal amount going back in. These just don't, they're just overgrown. I don't know if you've been out there. They hadn't touched this property.
But I didn't see where it was before you marked the trees.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Question on technicalities, John. The determination, can that be continued, or do we have to do something tonight?
Well, I mean, obviously, they didn't put in their permit application as to, put in plantings. That doesn't have to be part of the permit. We can do that on a side if we want to.
Okay.
I mean, that could be a
You can write something up, I'll sign it.
verbal agreement. I mean, obviously, I know Greg Meister too from Sharon.
And he's a tough guy,
He is a tough guy.
okay?
But, I do know that, I think that's something that we can work with.
Okay. I just didn't want to get a legal issue by keeping the determination open.
I would say that if this was a notice of intent application, I would continue it, but since it's an RDA, I'd be okay with closing it this evening.
Okay, all right. And then we'll work with the homeowner. Sounds good.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions, comments?
No, I don't know if anybody's on Zoom.
Anyone on Zoom? Nope. All right. Somebody want to close the hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the hearing for 12 Creighton Lane, map 4, parcel 38, request for determination.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Do you have the,
She does.
somebody want to make a motion to make a negative determination? And negative is good for you, by the way.
Oh, okay.
You don't want a positive determination.
Make a request for termination, 12 Creighton Lane, map 44, parcel 38.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. So we will see you Wednesday around 3.
Perfect. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this, that one. That. Being 7:10 PM, we have a request for determination for Schneider Electric. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Foxborough's Wetland Protection Bylaw, Chapter 267, the Conservation Commission will open a public meeting on Monday, April 29th, 2024, at 7:10 PM in the Gala Meeting Room, Foxborough Town Hall, 40 South Street, or via Zoom on a request for determination of applicability filed by Schneider Electric for the installation of a new portion of an 8-inch water main and valves, as well as removal of an existing hot box at 70 Mechanic Street, Assessor's Map 067, parcel 063, within 100 feet of a wetland resource area. The application is available for public inspection at the Conservation Office. And let me check one thing here. Okay. All right. For the record,
My name is Wade Stanley. I live 23 Troutbrook Lane in Norwell, Massachusetts. I work for Woodard and Curran. I'm here representing Schneider Electric at their site at 70 Mechanic Street in Foxborough, Massachusetts. Just to get into this project background, like you said, includes the installation of a new subsurface 8-inch diameter water main and valves, the removal of an existing hot box, which is a backflow preventer. All construction within the buffer zone will restore conditions to pre-construction surfaces, and the project is necessary to help stay in compliance with fire suppression needs of the building on that site. And there is additional work outside of the buffer area. All utilities that are being installed as part of this project are underground within the 100-foot buffer. No activities are proposed within the wetland area. The wetland area is not jurisdictional under the WPA according to Massachusetts law, but is jurisdictional under the Foxborough law. Erosion control will be utilized during construction. This is kind of where it all is. That green line that's highlighted that you also have in your packets is the 100-foot buffer. There's about between 25 and 30 feet of water main, which is being installed. And then this hot box, which is partially within the 100-foot buffer, will be removed as part of this project. So again, the only work happening in the buffer is 8-inch diameter water main right here, about 25 to 30 feet, and a valve, a coupling. And then the existing hot box, which is a backflow preventer, will be removed, restoring currently impervious area to grass. That's really it. I can answer any questions anyone has.
I was out at the site, obviously, and it looks okay to me. John,
Yeah, it looks okay to me too.
anybody else?
Oh, I always will.
You,
You state in your page 3 that it's a 500 square foot area in size, appears only likely to hold the water for at least 2 weeks over the course of a year. I live across the street. We can have 3 feet of water in there for a month and a half when we have extreme rains and very high water table. So we've had mallets actually roosting in there during that period of time.
Okay.
So that can contain quite a bit of water, and yes, it does run off partly from the driveway in the area woods. But another thing that I notice is, in your construction plan, C200,
Yeah.
you're gonna put a silt sack to be placed in the catch basin and maintained during construction. That 8-inch line takes the drainage of Pond Avenue, which the whole Pond Avenue and Falls Road drains to. That's the only way out. And when the whole system backs up through the parking lots, underneath the parking lots and everything, Pond Avenue floods up to 3 feet.
Okay.
Putting something, a silt sack inside that catch basin, I don't know if, we have these June rains. Even though it's outside of our jurisdiction, I'm just giving you the facts that you could make it worse.
Okay. Would you prefer there is no silt sack there?
You're the engineer. I'm just presenting you the facts, what happens in that neighborhood.
Yep. I understand.
You can get deep enough to paddle a canoe and kayaks.
Okay. I mean, the only thing I can really say is that a lot of silt shouldn't be getting in that. It's certainly something I can pass off to the client and the contractor just to make sure that that silt sack is always clean. I understand because usually we say check it every few weeks. Maybe it's check it every time it rains. And we'd be amenable to that in the decision. I don't see a problem with that.
Or couldn't you put it around the outside instead of putting it in the catch basin?
Sure.
I mean, John,
Yeah, I mean, I would say the onus is on the contractor to make sure there's no issues. So,
Yeah,
if
I would say
that's kind of, that's every contractor, that is every project, whether it's an RDA, notice of intent. They're responsible for making sure all containment, all preventive measures, BMPs are either working properly, or and if they're causing more issues than they need to figure out a solution. So I say leave it to the contractor. If it becomes a problem during a significant storm, they bring it back to us and say, hey, we've got an issue. And then we, talk to Woodward and Kern, and they'll figure out a solution.
also that drainage pipe is very old. It's very old. So I don't know, it probably goes back to the 60s. So please be careful.
Absolutely.
Whoever is doing the work there. Because
Absolutely. Yeah, if they break it, they'll put in a new PVC one. So
Maybe that's a win-win.
yeah.
How long is the project going on? Would it take to do that?
I mean, honestly, we'd like to get our contractor going as soon as possible and be done as soon as possible, because this is really it's a safety thing.
Is it a 2-week job? Is it a 30-day job?
Maybe a 2-week job to get everything in, and maybe a little longer just to get the pump house in, roughed in and everything, but
It's not gonna be a long time.
it's not going to be a long time.
I would estimate less than a month.
Yeah. I would hope.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Comments? All right, again, this is an RDA. So, somebody want to make a motion to close the hearing?
Make a motion to close the hearing for 70 Mechanic Street, map 67, parcel 63. Request for determination.
Okay, here, second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
I,
Opposed? None? Diana, you got the forms? Okay. Somebody want to make a negative determination?
a request for determination, 70 Mechanic Street, map 67, parcel 63, for a negative determination.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yep. I'll have it in the next few days. Next day or so, if I could just send it to you so probably by Wednesday.
It's 7:15, we have a continuation for 25 Pumping Station Road. Gentlemen?
Hello, everyone. For those who don't know, my name is Lance Del Priore. I'm the Assistant DPW Director / Town Engineer. I'm filling in for Chris tonight because he couldn't be here. He's hoping to make it, but I think he's running short on time. So I'm jumping in here. Obviously, we ran through the project a little bit. The PFAS treatment plant, essential to meet our permit compliance. It's, the new standard in terms of, water quality, the emerging contaminant that EPA has, since changed the standard to 4 parts per trillion for certain parameters and various other standards for other, compounds and configurations of that chemical. I brought Brian in again, to help discuss any of the technical points that I may not have the answers to. We have since submitted the documentation to request the certificate of completion. I emailed that over to John and Diana. But please let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for the introduction. Brian Weiner at Ty and Bond. So last meeting we talked about the old permit and having that closed out. And then the other items we talked about is there was a peer review that was going to happen with the planning board submission and that approval. And so we had that public hearing closed and we closed out the peer review comments that were related to stormwater. It was reasonably straightforward, mostly clarifications and minor items to update text on plans and notes, that type of stuff. And then we'd also had a discussion last meeting about specifying the type of seed for the detention infiltration basin. And so we had submitted some proposed cut sheets of the seed that we'd proposed to use, and I believe that's the open items that were discussed. I have the set of plans available to open and go over any technical questions. But I'll open it up, and with us tonight too on Zoom is one of our scientists that did the wetland flagging and filing with me. If there's some questions, she'd be available to answer.
All right. John, this is more technical for...
Well, I think procedurally, the first thing to do is to close out the past permit.
Okay.
And then the next step would be then to put on the question of the 25, I guess it would be 157564, closing that one out first, and then discussing 157637.
Okay.
Did we get a written request to close it out?
Yes.
Yes,
We did.
Do you have it, Diana?
I have the form to sign, yes.
Okay. Someone want to make a motion to close that old hearing?
Make a motion to close the old hearing, 157-564, 25 Pumping Station Road.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Opposed? None. All right, we'll get that closed out. That's taken care of. All right. That was done.
Okay.
All yours again, John.
So I don't have any issues with 157637. I leave it up to the commission to discuss.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board? David, you happy with it?
Oh, no problem.
Okay, good. Rick? All right. I have no problem. I've been down there. I've seen what's going on. So it's all set. Anybody in the audience, by the way, have any comments? Okay. Hearing none. Do I hear a motion to close 157637?
Make a motion to close 157637, 25 Pumping Station Road.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? We'll get you out on order of conditions. When will they be available, John?
As soon as possible,
As soon as possible?
within 21 days.
Okay?
The move we sign, execute the order of conditions, signature page for 25 Pumping Station Road, DEP 157-637.
Do I hear a second? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right. So, thank you,
Thank you very
gentlemen.
much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. John, I will say, I think Greg retired like 6 years ago.
I did. I took over for him for a little bit.
Did you? You filled in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Tell,
You're dating yourself a little bit. Huh?
tell your crew, appreciate the extra sand at Edwards. All ramp was good. Thank you.
We'll let them know.
All right.
Thanks.
That's that.
John will be back in a second, so.
What's that?
John will be back in a second, so everybody
Okay.
hold.
All right. It being 7:20 PM, we have a continuation of DEP 157636 Pioneer LLC. Okay, that's that.
That's the Roger going is here so far.
Way behind.
What's happening?
No, being lazy.
Let's get to it. Bees? Yeah, but knives.
You really have to think about doing that in January, so you can put your order in, wherever you want, pick them up locally or from someplace else.
I'm noticing,
That's that.
I don't know if they're wild or somebody's hive, like in my yard, but doesn't have any. I'm noticing them.
Oh, yeah. You got a 3-mile range. Even if it was a mountain. With those miles at.
Where's the guy who put where did
Just down the street. Less than a half mile from where I live. Like 1/4 mile.
Yeah,
Directly.
follow this.
There's a couple of guys in the field.
You want to do these old ones first?
Here it is.
Hey, Jim, sir.
Been running?
7:37.
No, I lost tonight. She lost. Yeah. I'm the coach of the Foxborough Rangers.
Artists. We've made it all the way down to East
To
Street.
his nephew's team. Baseball team? Yeah. Small kids. Majors. Yeah. Last year before. What are we dancing?
Made it all the way down to East Street. We missed all the good stuff.
Are you kidding? You guys are cool.
All set?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'm Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Group, and I'm here representing the applicant, Pioneer Estates. Also with me this evening is Frank Spillane. Spillane is the attorney for the project, and Lauren Glogg from Pear Corp, who is the wetland scientist, and she is dialing in. So there she is. And so this is a continuation of our last public hearing, which was April 1st. And we have, subsequent to that, we've also met with the planning board. We've met with the town's professional staff, all of the department heads. And we've met with Mr. Thomas to talk about some of the issues that were brought up at the meeting. And you should have in front of you a 2-page memorandum that I prepared that goes over the modifications to the plan. And what I'd like to do is just briefly go over them. Let me call them up. Share my screen. The first thing in the memo I just want to talk about, and we'll talk about that later, is we've requested certificates of compliance from the commission and the DEP for some open orders on the property. Most of them have to do with work that was permitted but never started, although there was one order back in 2010 where work was done. And I guess we'll discuss that later. We filed a request with the DEP, a request for a one-year extension to the superseding order of conditions that was issued on May 3rd, 2021. It's still good, and since we've already filed the notice of intent, it's still good, but it was Mr. Thomas's thought that, if for some reason we withdrew this notice of intent, then we would have to go through the water resource area delineation again. So we've filed that extension. We have had a peer review by Weston and Sampson, which is the town's stormwater consultant. And there was a written peer review, and also we had a Zoom meeting with them. And Gabby Jordan, who's the acting planner, to go over their comments. And the plans that I've given you today are as a result of that discussion, as well as the other discussions. In addition to that, I've also given you a copy of the response that I wrote to the planning board for the stormwater issues. So we can peruse that, or we can discuss anything you wanted to do there. So what I'd like to do is if you could, is to go to sheet 5.5. I think a lot of the issues that we talked about or that have changed here will be shown up on this plan. So it's sheet 5.5. So one of the questions that wasn't clear in our filing is, we show houses on all the lots, and that is because we're required to do so by the planning board under their regulations. So we show the houses to show that, hey, here's the house, here's the potential septic, and here is, maybe the roof drain system, just to show you and us that we can certainly fit things on that lot. But in order to be clear, what we have added a note is up on the upper left-hand corner of the bottom plan, so right in that area there where I'm circling with my hand, I've added a note that says lots 2 and 4, which are these two lots here, the first two lots on the left, which lie partially in the riverfront. Those improvements shown are conceptual only. And it also says both lots will require separate Wetlands Protection Act filings, and the total resource riverfront area alteration on those lots shall not exceed 5,052 square feet. And what that is if we go up into this corner table here, we've gone over this at the last meeting. I can talk about it again. So we talk about the fact that we have total riverfront area. We can only alter 10% of it. And that lays out how the 10% is, we come to that. 5,000 square feet of that is quote unquote left over, and we'll be using that, no more than that anyways, on lots 2 and 4. So again, the next one is we're not clear about that. So again, sheet 5.5, we built this one to kind of be your go-to sheet on here. We wanted to show all the regulatory issues that have to do with the Wetlands Protection Act. We wanted to show the crossing, plantings. We've added this plan up here. This was a question Mr. Thomas brought up. He wanted us to show the areas of cuts, the areas of fills. So I've hatched the areas of cuts and fills and given you square footages. And then over here is the compensatory storage volume calculations by elevations. I also noted in here that, again, going back to lots 2 and 4, that we fully expect that if the commission chooses to approve this project, that a condition will be placed in the order that requires separate filings for lots 2 and 4, and that a deed notice will have to be placed on the land that notifies anybody buying it in the future that no more alteration can take place. So somebody can't show up in 10 years and say, gee, I'd really like to do this, I'm only altering this percentage. Well, no, you're not. We've already used it all up on the crossing. Again, the other thing we've done is we've tried to make this a little clearer down here in the planting plan, so that, again, we're trying to make it clear for you and make it clear for the contractor when he goes in it. Nothing's changed on that. We haven't changed anything. We've just kind of changed shaded it out a little better, changed the colors a little bit more. I think the big thing one of the things we talked about, if you go back to sheet 3.2 would be a good one to go to, or 2.2, either one. And what that shows, if you look on the back end of this, between lots 9 and 11, which are the last two lots on the cul-de-sac, you can kind of look up here. I know it's hard to see with the podium in the way. What we've done is we've added a 10-foot wide portion to parcel B, which is the parcel that's being conveyed to the town for open space. That was a comment that the commission gave us at the last meeting about, hey, access would be difficult through this parcel down by the river. So would you give us access through the cul-de-sac? So that's what this is. This is part of Lot B. It's not an easement. It's 10 feet wide. And actually, if you go to sheet 2.2, it shows the monumentation. And what we show down there is we show concrete bounds and marker posts to be set at the entrances, so at the beginning and the end. So it's clear to anybody, and mostly to the owners on either side, that that is a path that's owned by the town, and, you don't own it. So that is, those are the changes that we've made and the modifications. And me and Frank and Lauren are here to answer any questions.
John, procedurally, shall we close out those old notices first?
So procedurally, that's the process to go. I will say, though, I have some reservations with 490 because, my understanding is that, as part of all this correspondence, the department, the state, issued a, what did they call it? A administrative consent order and notice of non-compliance. And my understanding is that they're the ones that are in charge of granting that alleviation. We don't have the authority to grant that. So I guess that's my question. This was back in 2010, 2011. So I just want basically confirmation that the state released them from the enforcement. And I guess that's my question.
So and I think I forwarded it to you, but if you didn't, I will. I got an email from the state that they're going to come down, they're going to show up on the end of May to do a site walk for that. So they're going to look at that administrative consent order. And in that email at the bottom, it said, we're going to do the administrative consent order, but you own the order of conditions, the Foxborough Conservation Commission. So that's why I asked them to issue the return to compliance letter. I've never heard these terms before, by the way, in 30-something years.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've never heard of them either.
Yeah.
So I thought it was very odd because it was enforcement action from both sides, from my understanding.
Yes.
But this is their portion of it. And then, for instance, that's where I'm getting at is that, I wasn't here when this went down and kind of when this transpired, so I don't know the extent.
Missed all the fun.
What's that? So I don't know exactly how this all transpired, but my understanding is that when DEP makes a executive decision like this, it's pretty serious. So I don't want this to be in the commission's hands for making judgment or before the state kind of makes their evaluation and assessment. I feel like it would be prudent for the state to make a decision on this matter as it comes to 490.
Yep, I understand.
Unfortunately, I know that their site visit's not gonna happen within a month.
May 28th, I think.
Yes. Yep,
So, you know, I have my reservations when it comes to making those, you know, those processes and advocating to the commission that everything's good to go, because if the state says no, then for instance,
right.
you know, it's just, I'd rather be certain that the state's okay with this before the commission signs off on it.
I'm fine with that.
So, as it pertains to 490, I think we hold that
Hold
one.
it, okay.
But as it pertains to 528, I believe that's the number, right?
Yes.
I believe that was a denial, and no work kind of followed 528. I mean, I'm asking the commission, because I wasn't here for that issuance of that one either. But,
I do not think any work was done on that one at all.
No, that was, I mean, I read it, I went through it, and that was my letter to the commission that no work was done on 528, because it couldn't be, because it was denied.
Yeah.
And then even though the DEP issued a superseding order, it still went to Superior Court, and it was, the
Still-
denial was upheld.
Yeah,
So there was no work done on it.
all right.
so I guess the applicant's requesting closeout of that denial, but it was denied, so this would just certify that the project was denied. I guess that's kind of, there's nothing really to,
Right, there's a box that
There's no-
says invalid order of conditions.
yeah, invalid order conditions. So there's no work that was done, but it's just confirmation.
It's still a certificate of compliance, however.
Ultimately, yes, it is, but
Okay.
there's certain levels within that certificate of compliance.
Okay. So why don't we close that one out? DEP 157528, if somebody could make a motion for me, please?
Make a motion to close out the DEP 157528.
There's second discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? So now then we're back to this one. Any other questions or comments on the board?
I have one.
Okay.
I don't think we discussed how you're going, where you're going to put the dewatering of the isolated wetland area, and/or when you're putting the base of the walls in, you're going to be down in the water table. Where are you going, I couldn't remember seeing on a plan where that water is going to be filtered, and everything around it is uphill.
Yeah, well, typically what I put in there is, and I'm not sure if it's in my SWIP, but I can add it to the SWIP. If it's not, is that all takes place outside the buffer zone. So it'll be pumped out of the buffer zone, we'll make a sump. You know, typically a stone sump, it's pumped into it, filters it, and then it's got a 100-foot run till it goes back to the wetlands if it's going in that direction. The type of wall we're putting in is not, you know, it's not going down 4 feet. It's not it doesn't have a 4 or 5 foot, like a foundation. This is a stone block wall. It goes down maybe a foot. So depending on the time of year this happens, we might not be in the water table at all. But that's a good point, and that's typically what I write in there. But I'll make a note.
Any other questions?
So one comment, I guess I'd look to the members for thoughts on this as well. So the 10-foot wide conveyance to allow access, right? I think it's a great idea. I've seen other projects with the town, like especially the one that's off of Cocasset Street leading back toward the wetlands back there. When you first do this, it looks nice and clearly delineated, but like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you know, stuff gets overgrown. How's anybody gonna even know it's there? So I don't know if is there a way to make this, I guess, lasting in some fashion, that it's gonna not be an eyesore, but also like be clearly like, hey, this is a path that people can access?
I mean, I could do whatever you want. What we did over on Lawson Farm off of North Street, you know, that one meanders through and goes out to,
Community, Old Colony Way?
no, it goes out to,
Copperton.
no.
No.
I can't even think. But anyways, what we can do is typically, you bring in a Bobcat. It has a grinder in the front. It's about 3 or 4 feet wide. It will clear it out. It will clear a path, and then we throw chips down behind it. Is that gonna last forever? Nope. But if, you know, if you people are using it, it will. You know, we can make it more permanent, but the more permanent you make it, the more disturbed it gets. But, you know,
Now, I'm not looking for a paved path or something like that. I was just,
right.
some sort of idea as to.
Yeah.
We'd have to put up signage or something like that, you know, that's a certain conservation area and a pathway. Name it after somebody that's been here for a long time.
Weren't you gonna put posts in?
Yep. So they're,
So you got post marking them.
yes. And they'd be at they'd be the beginning and the end, but that's like 200 feet. So, but it's a straight path too.
Yeah.
And you walk away.
Yeah, that would be, if you know, put it down chips, and then as the people use it, it will keep it open. Hopefully people will use it.
Can we put a gate up?
I mean,
No, I don't think we want to put a gate up.
Well, just a friendly gate. I mean, you don't want the ATVs going in there. You know the ATVs will go in there if it's wide open.
Well,
You'd have to fence up the yards to stop them from going around the gate there, because you got houses on both sides.
Yeah,
I don't think the neighborhood's gonna want a standalone gate.
Yeah. I mean, we put a gate over there on River Ridge, but that's a road. We built a road there so you can get back there.
yeah.
But yeah, it's only gonna be a couple of feet wide, and you're right, but we could put some boulders in there. Put some boulders.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only fishermen move boulders.
I have a question. I don't know if this was answered earlier. Sorry, I was late. What happens if you don't get the extension on the superseding order of conditions?
It is a resource area delineation, and since we've already filed with you, it's good.
Okay.
It's good. But the point is, it expires in next week, or this week, is it? So if we withdrew this, now we have no order of delineation. But we're not gonna withdraw it, so.
John, any other comments?
No, I mean, I think, you know, the main component here is for me, is mostly the past permits, getting everything kind of buttoned away, and having all that administrative information figured out, and then kind of seeing this as its own clean slate project once all that stuff gets kind of ironed out, and then we can, I guess, you know, talk about it more at that point. I'm curious to see kind of what the state's going to come in with the 490, because they did reports back in 2011. I'm just shocked that, you know, nothing from 2011 till now was, you know, I guess figured out. So
Why are you shocked?
well, I'm a procedure guy, okay? That's how I am.
Yeah, it was, yeah, I don't know why either. I mean, Pear Corporation did that work as well. It wasn't Lauren, it was her predecessor, Briscoe. He did all the reports, filed them with the DEP, filed them with you, but they never followed up. But then again, even if it was me, what is the return to compliance letter? I would have never, unless you read that, you read that section, it said, and you could file a return to compliance letter. Okay. But I've never heard of it before, never seen it. And here's a story, I think I told you this last week, or last meeting. When I called the DEP, because I had no idea what it was, so I called the DEP hotline down there, and I talked to the lady, and she was like, I'm gonna have to call you back. So she had to go talk to somebody in the wetland section, and then they told me just file the Form 8A with them as well, because there is no paperwork and there's no fees for a return to compliance letter. So I said, okay. But she didn't know either.
Oh,
She's
interesting.
She's the hotline.
John, you mentioned in here, one of your comments about the applicant needs to provide proof they're not able to utilize the access area.
Yeah, I mean, that's typically here in any sort of project that's considered a limited project. And, that's every limited project that you have. And, there's, wetland policy 88-2, which is right here. I have the thing from the state, which is right here. It runs through all this stuff as to what, I wanted the commission to look at it, and I don't know if everybody did, but just to kind of understand that, limited project criteria, that's what they're coming in with this project. So if there were any questions from the board or the commission as to kind of why this would or would not be considered a limited project, they can be answered in this kind of thing. But I guess, I don't know, Bill, do you want to explain the wetlands policy 88-2, or is the attorney?
Do they have to supply a written proof to the commission for the record?
What's that?
Do they have to supply a written proof for the record to the
For
commission?
what?
Proof that
It can't be done the other way.
they're not able to utilize.
They've reached
So-
out. They've tried.
So the thing is, the reason why I brought this up was because the commission previously, under a different permit, stated that it didn't meet that. So the project that was done previously. So this project is, what I'm saying is different than what was previously proposed. That's my understanding. So, for instance, it would be in the applicant's best interest to explain why this project meets Wetlands Policy 88-2. That's why I recommended that the board ask those questions.
Okay.
So I'll ask that question.
Okay, go ahead.
Bill, because it's my question too. Like because I wasn't on the commission for these previous applications. So it's unclear to me what makes this application different, and do you think more likely to succeed than what has been done in the past, which I know wasn't you, but
Right.
you must have had to
No, I understand.
figure out what might work since the others were denied.
So I think one of the things I just want to point out again, as you said, I wasn't part of it, but I did read all those documents. And that particular filing, which was the one we were just talking about, 490, it was denied by the commission, but it was denied for lack of information.
528, that's the one, by the way. Yeah.
I'm sorry, 528, yes. So it was denied for lack of information. So when you look at the denial, it was all lack of information, lack of information. At the time, Foxborough filed two separate orders. So there was a Wetlands Protection Act order and a local bylaw order. So the Wetlands Protection Act order denied it, and it did say that it wasn't, in the commission's opinion, it wasn't a limited project. So that went to the DEP. It was appealed to the DEP, and the DEP overruled the commission and said it is a limited project. That was under the State Wetlands Protection Act bylaw. The local bylaw went to Superior Court. And the Superior Court, and Frank is going to jump in, but the reason it went to Superior Court was because it's a local bylaw. But it was, if you read the local denial, every one of the reasons it was denied was lack of information. Our understanding is the applicant just refused to give you the additional information you wanted, including like a wildlife study, et cetera. The Superior Court ruled in favor of the commission. The commission didn't deny it because it was, in that order, it didn't deny it because it was a limited project. It denied it because the information wasn't given, and that the court confirmed that the commission had the right to deny it for that reason.
I think the information we were looking for, they were talking about building a bridge, and we asked for specs on the bridge. They said they would design it after the approval, but it would meet all of our specs, and we didn't want to take them at their word.
Yeah, and you asked for a wildlife study too, and
Yeah.
they wouldn't give you that.
Yeah. So the court case, again, there were two orders of condition, one under the act and one under the local bylaw. Back then, you used to do two separate ones. So Dare Hill appealed it to DEP, who did a superseding order with regard to the act, and they specifically said that. Dare Hill then went to Superior Court saying the DEP superseding order of conditions overrules the local orders of condition also. And the court came down saying, no, it doesn't. It has, it's more stringent, and it really focused on the 25-foot buffer.
Okay.
Saying that you have more stringent conditions than the act does, therefore the superseding orders of conditions do not supersede the local act. And they would have then taken your conditions to court on its own merits, which they didn't. You know, they thought they were gonna win there. You know, and right in there, you know, it states that the DEP issued the superseding order of conditions approving the Dare Hill project as a limited project roadway crossing the wetlands. And in your denial, one of the things you stated was you thought they had another access point where they're driving in right now. Well, in filings with the planning board, conservation, whomever, you have to get all landowners to sign the application. Well, they don't own that land, and there's no easement on record that allows them to cross it. There is something that the Hunts put on record themselves that starts to whom it may concern. They just put this on saying that there was this agreement back in the day between the Hunts and the Upson, who owned the land at the time, back in 1986. And they said, well, this is the agreement, that you could have access, but you only can use it for a single-family residence. Now, that, you know, you could call that an easement, that's not really an easement. You know, giving somebody, they're just saying this is what the agreement was. So they don't have an easement over that property. Now, in one of Hunt's, Mr. Hunt's letters in March 18th, 2024, he even states that the legal opinion states both 204 and 206 have an easement by prescription after decades of use. That is correct. But if he wanted to use that to have access, he'd have to go to court, get a court to determine that. And if he has that, he could use that for any purpose that he could use all that land for. But right now, as we sit here, he does not have the ability to use that to access it in order to do a subdivision. In theory, could he go to court, get that right? Yes. And that's why, you know, I question this that was put on by the Hunts, because Mr. Buckley and I went back, we found a 1936 plan, I think it was, Bill, that showed that access for both the properties. So that's been there for a long time, and I think I went back to the 40s on deeds, and I didn't go any further back, you know, showing that the properties were separated. And, you know, if they came to me, I would tell Mr. Upson at the time, you don't agree to that. You never know what you can do with that property. You don't want to come to an agreement with somebody that says you only can use it for a single-family residence when you might want to do other things with it. And you have that right anyway to go over that property because it's been going on for so long. Because again, the hunts have to go on, the property that's being developed now to get onto their property too. So it was back and forth. And at some point, probably early in the 1900s, because both these houses were built in the early 1900s, you know, somebody owned all the land and it was deeded out somehow, and that's how everyone got up there. And if you deed land, you know, and somebody has access that way, you give them that access, you know, and also over prescriptions. So that long-winded explanation goes back to, no, we don't have any way to be able to access through that easement because it's over someone else's property. And that's what the DEP came down with, that it is a limited project.
Let me also, if you could, let's go to the sheet 4.1, if you could go there. The first 4.1, because no, I'm sorry, 3.1. Go to 3.1. I'm going to zoom in on that. So what I want to point out is this area that we keep talking about, which we don't own and we have no right to cross over. So, but I want to do the theoretical thing. So this is the existing gravel driveway that's used by 204 and 206, right through here. So you look at the areas we're altering. When I say with our design, what are we altering? We're altering riverfront area. We're altering isolated vegetated wetland, okay? We're not altering BVW. So I want you to look at this 200-foot riverfront area line. Even if I moved it over there, I'm still going to alter in riverfront area. Even if I move the roadway over there, I'm still going to alter this isolated wetland. Even if I move the roadway over there, I'm still going to be filling in the floodplain. So that doesn't help us. It doesn't fix it. I'm still doing riverfront alteration. I'm still doing isolated wetland alteration, and I'm still doing bordering land subject to flooding alteration. So it's not a clean, it's just not. Now the numbers are going to be different, but I'm not sure how they're going to be that much different, to tell you the truth. We'll be further away from the BVW, for sure. But other than that, all the same alterations are taking place. In my memo, when I did the original filing, I talked on bottom of page 2. It talks about, I gave you the definition of a limited project. So I'm going to just kind of hit the bullet points here. So it's the construction and maintenance of a new roadway or driveway of minimum legal and practical width, acceptable to the planning board, that's important, where reasonable alternative means of access from a public way to an upland area the same owner is unavailable. So such roadway or driveway shall be constructed which does not restrict the flow of water. This does not. We've put an equalizer culvert underneath there to allow water to move back and forth. Reasonable alternative means of access may include any previously or currently available alternatives, such as realignment or reconfiguration of the project to conform to the 1054 to 1058, which is just sections. 1058 is riverfront, or to otherwise minimize adverse impacts on resource areas. So we think we've done that. We think we've minimized it. We've made the road as skinny as possible. We've put it, and remember, possible is defined by the planning board. But they've also granted, we think they're going to grant us the waiver to not have big grass strips so that we can minimize the impact in that area. And we've also put walls up again, so we don't have to grade. We're minimizing the work in that area. The issuing authority may require the applicant to utilize access over an adjacent parcel of land currently or formerly owned by the applicant, or in which the applicant has or can obtain an ownership interest. Frank has already gone through that this has not been owned by the things, at least probably until the 30s. It's been in separate ownership, so long before the Wetlands Protection Act existed. In which the applicant has or can obtain an ownership interest. Again, my understanding from what I've been told by my client, the owner of that property is not interested in selling that land to him to move the triangle. But again, that doesn't move us outside the resource areas. We're still in the resource areas. It's just different numbers that I'm going to put at you. The applicant shall design the roadway and driveway according to the minimum length and width acceptable to the planning board, and shall present reasonable alternative means of access to the board. Again, we think that that is a reasonable means of access. Applicant shall provide replication of BVW. We don't have that. And compensatory flood storage. We have that. To the extent practical. We have met the standard, not just to the extent practical. And then in the certificate of compliance, the issuing authority may contain a condition imposed in the order of conditions to prohibit further activities under 1053-3E. Again, we talked about that. We fully expect that to be put in there. So that's what makes this a little different. It's not a bridge. We put in walls. A lot of it has to do with the Department of Public Works. They didn't like the previous design. I will tell you that no DPW likes low-impact development. It's maintenance intensive. So yeah, homeowners association or a condo association, yeah, they'll do it usually, but DPWs don't want to do it. So we've taken a lot of those things out. But what I would point you toward, if you could, is the letter I wrote to the planning board when I answered the issues that were brought up by the stormwater, and if I'm going to bring up a section for you because I think it's worth pointing out to you that we have gone above and beyond. So let me share screen. So this is the peer review response that was attached to my response to you. And I want to zoom in on it. So it's the top part. So one of the DEP stormwater standards is Stormwater Standard 6, that if you're in a critical area, the standards are higher for us in stormwater. So what I wanted to read to you is that's Weston and Sampson comment. The southerly portion of the project site lies within the Canoe River ACEC. However, the Canoe River is not an outstanding resource water and does not qualify as a critical area. So it does not qualify as a critical area under the DEP stormwater standards. To be conservative, the engineer has designed the stormwater management practices to treat the first 1 inch of runoff as if the project was tributary to a critical area. Additionally, the engineer has voluntarily met the pre-treatment requirements prior to infiltration required for critical areas. So he's pointing out to you that we've gone above and beyond the requirement. It's an ACEC. We recognize it's an ACEC. So even though it's not defined as an outstanding resource area under the regulations we have to follow, we've treated it as such. So those are some of the things that I think we've done differently here. And as I pointed out earlier, Lauren did a comprehensive wildlife study that she filed with you. And I think that our restoration and replication plan is good.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Mr. Hunt, you have some comments?
Yes, please.
Just for the record, we've received a lot of notifications or reports from you.
Yes.
It will be part of the record. I'm not going to read everything in tonight.
Okay, all right.
But they will be part of the record.
Sure. Tom Hunt, 206 East Street. I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm going to start with the limited project. The commission clearly stated that the landowner has access, and that has had access, that's been a shared easement for the past 100 years. I got a legal opinion that said that will serve him to access his home and his land, but not necessarily for a subdivision. And I mean, this was, I urge you to read the denial documents from Forge Estates, and also look at the court, the Superior Court decision. And Bob, has this been discussed with legal counsel?
No.
Okay. All right. So I think, you know, I think that's why it was denied. Why you denied them was that it may say lack of information, but you clearly state that you denied them limited project status because they have access to their land in home.
I'd have to.
Those are the words of
Okay.
the commission.
I don't recall.
It's on the first page of the letter that I sent last week, Bob.
Okay.
Foxborough Conservation Commission hereby finds that the project does not qualify for a limited project general requirement regarding reasonable alternative access from a public way to an upland area of the same owner, since there is currently a reasonable access to the owner's property by way of a driveway easement recorded at the Norfolk Registry of Deeds book so-and-so.
I'm no legal attorney or anything of that, but my understanding is that if you were going to create a roadway, the roadway, if it was going to be on that property, an easement has no bearing for you creating a roadway. The landowner of that property still needs to sign off on that roadway being constructed. Is that correct?
It depends on the easement. But again, a couple things. One, the language he's referring to was, I believe, under the order of conditions under the State Act.
That's correct.
So then when the superseding order of conditions came out, it said, yes, it does come under that limited project jurisdiction. So that overruled your decision. None of that language is in the orders of conditions under the town bylaw. Now, again, you know, what you're referring to as an easement, again, starts to whom it may concern. And it's confirming what's stated occurred in October 1986, but it was recorded in 2005. There is an easement, I believe, by prescription. You know, over time, you have to have access to your property. If somebody sold you a piece of property and you accessed it over their property, you get one by prescription. But again, you know, we don't have anything that we can show you, and, you know, to say that we have this right over this property, because an easement is a land ownership interest. So in theory, if we did have an easement, we could sign it under that easement. But I wouldn't feel comfortable giving this and saying we have a right to go over there and build it. And the other thing is, I don't think any bank would accept this, you know, as an easement over somebody's property, you know, for construction of a roadway. So, again, the DEP said it was a limited project in the supervising the conditions, which is where that language is from.
And the Superior Court said it was not.
No, Superior Court specifically says in their decision that the DEP issued a superseding order of conditions on October 8th, 2005, approving Deer Hills project as a limited project roadway, crossing the wetlands, and it goes on.
Superior Court said that?
In the case, yeah? It's right on there on page 4.
Okay, I think you're mistaken on that.
I'm
Did
quoting it.
anybody get a chance to look at the letters from Kate Conley, Town Council, where she explains to the Superior Court why the DEP was mistaken by saying that that would be a limited project area?
And again,
Is that in a filing?
That was in the letter that I sent last week, sir.
No, but was she opposing a motion, or was she making a
She
filing
was
with-
presenting the case to the Superior Court.
So it's not a decision by the court, it's just her opinion on
But
what
the
the town's position
the
was.
Superior Court agreed,
They agreed with it.
agreed with it, yeah.
the letter was the DEP laying out her foundation for the decision, and then later on, she sent another one asking for an appeal of that decision, again laying out on the same grounds, but very much to what was in the order as of conditions and the determination by this board. Again, a lot of it was, lack of information. It really was. And in reading it through, this board had real issues with the bridge, lack of information, no designs or anything like that, but also some of the drainage systems being complex, and I think there were rain gardens and all that, and that was some of the reasons why, the town didn't want ownership of it. But, this is a different project, so you can't read those letters, without understanding that she's talking about a much different project, one with a bridge, a different drainage system, which complicated it. And again, the big thing over and over again was lack of information.
So my understanding of this project is that the applicant currently for this project, the owner for this project, doesn't have any sort of means of access. And this is why they're coming in with a limited project. So that's the reason why I wanted the board to ask this question, is because there's no other means of getting access to this property to secure a roadway to come through here, and that's why they're filing this limited project. I think it's important to understand why this is being pursued as a limited project, because there's no means of access.
So if that easement were more like legally robust, would that then qualify as an access point, and then they would be filing this as a different,
So what
would it
they
be a
need.
different kind of filing
what
then,
need-
because
what-
they would have access?
As part of a limited project, you need to show that you're doing to the extent most practical in line with the act and also our local bylaw to lessen the amount of impacts to the resource areas, which they have tried to do, which they're not doing any impacts to BVW, which is a plus, it's only IVW. And they're also within riverfront area to the furthest extent they possibly can for this project, within the means and boundaries of their property. They have tried to show that they can achieve access through the least amount of impacts. And that's why they're here tonight, advocating that this limited project, seeking approval for this project. The only thing that's holding them up is these past permits and confirmation that the mitigation work that was done, without authorization has been, followed through, and everything is okay with the state. I mean, limited projects, that's kind of, you have your means, you have your right to pursue a limited project. It's up to the commission to make that determination till they feel that this project, although it's within an ACC, although it's within a sole source aquifer, does it meet the criteria? Has the applicant provided all the necessary information to support that, for instance, it demonstrates that it's doing the best best it can to the extent most practicable, design standard-wise and also environmentally sensitive-wise, to try to meet all those performance standards. And that's what's important for the commission to take into consideration.
I just want to touch on alternative analysis. I think, I always thought that that was the first thing that the commission asked for, was an alternative analysis. Have they looked at properties that can be developed outside the area with less environmental impact? And have they filed a report on that?
It was in my cover letter when we filed the original one, yes. There is no wording is substantially equivalent, substantially economically equivalent project in the area. And I know there isn't. There's no 12-lot subdivisions in Foxborough or the land there isn't. There's nothing going on there. We have no ability to access around us. I talked about that in my cover letter. And we can't, in the rear is conservation land. To the left is other land owned by other neighbors. To the right is land by neighbors. Even if the neighbor to our left sold us the land, we would still have to do a crossing. Still have to do a crossing. The river runs right through there. So, yes, we have looked at that. And again, that is my cover letter. I went through the alternatives, or what possible alternatives were. And there's different criteria that we have to lay out in there. So you can peruse that when you...
Since this application came out, either I or Colin Browning have been approached, so they haven't completed their alternative analysis.
We've been told that they've been approached since I have been part of it.
Not since this has been filed. Frank called me last summer.
That's sophistry.
We were unequivocally told.
I told you that I was busy. I told Fred Bottomley that I was busy at the time, but this is last summer. When was this project filed?
Long before it was filed, Mr. Bottomley told me that he met with you.
Never met with me. Absolutely not. The only time I've ever seen Fred Bottomley was about 6 or 7 years ago. He came to my house. It was the only time I've ever seen the man.
I was given wrong information, but I was told that he met with you to try to purchase.
No, absolutely not.
I have no control over that then.
Okay.
We have no control over it.
So I think we've determined they have not done a formal alternative analysis.
I'll let you answer that one, Jim.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, have they haven't met with you? They haven't communicated with you?
No. Frank did call me last summer and said, would you meet with Fred Bottomley? And I answered back to Fred Bottomley, and I just happened to be going overseas at the time, so.
I mean, is your mind going to change if he meets with you?
We'll see when he meets with me, I guess.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with Mr. Hunt on the phone.
Last summer.
More recently than that.
No. I can pull it up on my phone if you want, Frank.
Mr. Hunt?
About purchasing that triangle piece for access. And Mr. Hunt unequivocally told me he's not interested. He doesn't want that property ever developed. And he's never gonna, help us along with access through there. It was unequivocal when we spoke that nothing was ever gonna happen.
It was
Because
long
we were
before this
willing to-
project.
Because again, the planning board indicated, and I think Mr. Buckley has shown it before, wanted us to be able to give him access off of that roadway. At one point it was gonna be private, even if it was gonna be private, he wanted him to have access on it, to have frontage, because his lot has no frontage. The triangle piece doesn't touch his backland, and he has to drive onto the property we're developing in order to get onto his property. So in our design, Mr. Buckley's design, he has given, we're gonna give, and again, the planning board has asked us to do this, a portion of it to him, so he'll have 200 feet on that roadway and have access. If he doesn't want to use it, he can still continue to use the gravel way in. And Mr. Buckley designed it so he can turn in there. But again, Mr. Hunt was very blunt with me, saying that he had no interest and he didn't want to see that develop.
That's not true at all.
And that is absolutely true, because otherwise we would continue discussions with him about, because we're going to give him water, electric.
I had no discussion with you about any easement, Frank, so let's not go there. You called to see if I was interested in meeting with Fred Bottomley, and that was it.
Okay.
All right, wildlife corridor. This project will virtually eliminate that wildlife corridor. You're basically building a wall, that culvert. Mr. Buckley said, well, we're going to leave 4 feet opening in that culvert. And I'm sure you've all seen that area flooded several times a year. You know, are we going to train deer and coyotes and foxes and raccoons and all the other game that's been noted there to go through a flooded culvert? It's ridiculous.
I don't think it'll be flooded most of the time. It will be flooded some of the time, but the wildlife will make it through there.
How?
They've been making it through that area for a long time.
Yeah, but there hasn't been a wall and a walls and roads there.
John, you think a 4-foot culvert will?
I think common wildlife are pretty resilient, and they will find a way like they normally do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to blow off the wildlife corridor altogether?
For which species are we talking about?
Every species.
We talking about common
Can
wild?
I just introduce one photograph, please? You can pass that around. That's the area where they want to put the crossing right there. It's under almost 4 feet of water there.
This was taken in 2010?
Yes, sir.
How did it look this year?
I can show you.
Yeah, photo documentation of 2024?
What's that?
Do you have photo documentation of 2024?
Of course.
2010 was a very wet year too, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Well, wet years happen, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And this year was a very wet year too.
I'll give you the whole album. It goes from the 1980s to 2024.
Let's see.
This is water running out of the wetlands across my driveway and down East Street.
Do you have 2024? I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the
last ones?
last ones?
Last ones.
This one?
But we know we've seen that flooded. I've seen
okay.
the street flooded there. And the wildlife still.
Yeah, this was a bad storm.
So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to talk about wildlife, what we can do is, after Mr. Hunt is done making his presentation, Laura could perhaps talk about the wildlife study that she did. It's very detailed, have to go through certain criteria. It isn't just, kind of made up. It's, there's the DEP process that they force us to go through. So, if you're ready or at any point.
Sure. Come on in, Lauren.
Yeah. Hi, can you see me?
We can.
Hi. So Lauren Gluck, Managing Environmental Scientist at Park Corporation. I did a wildlife habitat evaluation of the riverfront area on the site back in earlier this year. I think it was February or March of this year. And we had some significant rain events this year. In fact, it's been one of the wettest late winter, early springs to date. And there was some flooding in the area of the isolated wetland. There was no overtopping along the old cart path. So the access road, the limited project crossing, actually follows kind of an area that's already elevated, an elevated area between the BVW along the river and the isolated wetland. There was some flooding in the isolated wetland. It does have a pretty established forest community there, which indicates it doesn't usually flood a lot. It probably floods, on an average year, like a foot or two. I haven't looked at it. I didn't look at it back in 2010. My colleague may have some data from that time, but during this wet spring, it really, it held some water, but it wasn't a huge amount of water. And, placing that limited project crossing road where we already have this kind of disturbed cart path, as we're calling it, it really does minimize the impact when given the available routes, especially compared with the old project, which would have had a bridge crossing over the river. And if there's anything specific in the evaluation you want me to go over, like what specific habitat features we found in the project area, I'd be happy to do that and pull up my report. And there's also some photos from this year in that report. Also, we were able to get out for a site visit, I think it was about a month ago. So some of the commissioners were able to see that area and just the level of disturbance that's already there. Any questions you have, I'd be happy to answer. I can pull up my report if you'd like to take a look at it.
Did you see any signs of the fisher cats this time?
Fisher cats? No.
Okay.
I didn't.
One time we were out there, we saw a pair trotting down along the river, so.
Oh, really? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see them out there. The habitat evaluation that we do under the Wetlands Protection Act is more looking at potential for habitat. We're not doing a survey of wildlife, but, we would make note of any sign that we see. There's a lot of deer sign out there. There's a lot of, songbirds and things like that out there. But I'm just pulling up my report.
It's Appendix E.
In case you want to take a look through.
What's that?
Appendix E. Of
I'm just pulling up my report. It's just taking a minute to, sometimes my, there we go. That should work. So this is just a figure showing the limits of the evaluation. So what we're doing with this evaluation is looking at, this was specific to riverfront area, but we also did look at the ILSF because it's in the riverfront area. It's part of the riverfront area. In red, we have highlighted the areas of riverfront area impact for the project, and we broke it out into 3 separate areas. Number one being the limited project road crossing. Number 2 being the stormwater basin and mitigation area, which don't get included in the riverfront calculation. So we separated them out as part of this evaluation. And then number 3 being the areas of the 2 house lots that have encroachments into the riverfront, which Bill mentioned, that's lot 2 and lot 4. In the evaluation, we did include the whole area of riverfront on those lots, although as Bill mentioned, the impacts in those areas would be limited, so that this whole area 3 would not be impacted, but we just wanted to look as a whole what is in that area. So for each of these 3 areas, we went through the pretty comprehensive detailed wildlife habitat evaluation checklist, Appendix B, to check for different wildlife habitat features. And then from there, the goal is to see, when compared with the rest of this resource area on the site, are we taking anything away that these areas are providing that's not being provided elsewhere on the site? So this blue, this teal, shows the full study area on the site. So this is the riverfront area on the subject property. So once we went through these 3 areas and tabulated, okay, what are the different features that are important to wildlife on these 3 areas, then we can look throughout the whole entire site and see, are those features elsewhere on this site? So that would be, actually, here's some, if we want to look at some photos, these would have been taken during my evaluation. So this is actually looking down from the top of the slope down to East Street, or East, 204, is it East Street or East Street? Looking down, and then this is the old cart path. So you see over here, this is the ILSF. This is the where the river goes under the road and the BVW. We're staying away from this BVW, which really, is a significant measure to minimize impacts. But by doing that, we're pushing in this direction and filling in this ILSF. So you see there is some flooding in there. Not a huge amount of flooding. And then this is just looking up, kind of going upslope where the roadway would be climbing the slope. This is where the proposed mitigation will be, which is going to adjoin the BVW and pull back from the BVW, extending up toward the existing cleared part of the slope where the stormwater basin is going. This is the location of the stormwater basin where we have, it's a lot of cleared area that's been cleared for quite some time at the top of the slope, but it is within riverfront area, so it was included in our study. These two photos are examples of what the riverfront area looks like in the impact area 3, which is lots 2 and 4, the residential parcels. So there is some woods in that riverfront, but there's also some disturbance. There are some existing trails that go through. There's some brush piles and some material storage areas. And then the next few photos are just some other views of the site, areas of the property that are outside of the impact area, just to get some context of what else is being offered within the riverfront area for habitat outside of our impact area. So this is down at the river looking upstream. Excuse me. Just a closer view of the river and the bank. This is that little kind of wedge-shaped area between the roadway and the river on the other side of the river, where it's forested, but there are some invasives there. And then much of the area that's not being touched in the riverfront is BVW. That's pretty well established with shrubs and trees, including the restoration that was done back in 2010. And these are just some other views of the BVW and the wooded areas of wooded slope that are not being altered. If we like, I can go through the Appendix B forms. It's a lot of check boxes and then tabulating of different features that are in the area. The most common habitat feature we were finding in these areas was important upland and wetland food plants. There was a lot of oak trees, blueberry bushes and things like that that are providing berries and nuts and things to wildlife. But when we reviewed the entire site, we found a really high diversity of wetland food plants and upland food plants that far exceeded those in the impact area, which was, relatively disturbed. There was also a few standing dead trees, which have habitat potential for a number of species for foraging and nesting, et cetera. But there were quite a few outside the impact area, whereas there was only a few inside the impact area. And then woody debris on the ground, that's just looking at fallen logs and things like that that can provide some cover for wildlife. There was quite a bit of that throughout the undeveloped portion of the site. That was just for impact area 3. So we had to do one of these for each of those 3 impact areas I went through at the beginning. So this is impact area 2, stormwater basin and mitigation area. So again, we have important food plants, standing dead tree, and woody debris. And then when we go to impact area 1, which is the limited project crossing, we have a few more. Again, we have upland and wetland food plants, standing dead tree, woody debris on the ground, rocks, logs, and trees under the water surface, and then overhanging branches within 1 meter above the water surface. So those last two come into play because we have a wetland area. So with the wetland area comes, yes, we have some rocks and tree roots under the water surface and overhanging branches within 1 meter above the water surface. But when we look at the rest of the site, we have significantly more of those features along the river itself, where we're crossing all along that boundary of the property parallel to the road. So by avoiding that crossing, we're really minimizing impacts to those features, which are abundant elsewhere on the site. And that pretty much covers it. I did have a narrative in there that kind of went over some context about what the site looks like, how it is bordering conservation land, and how we're largely staying out of the area directly bordering the river, which is providing, you know, a corridor for wildlife up into the surrounding wooded areas, and following with our crossing an existing disturbed area. So if anyone has any questions on that study, I'd be happy to answer them.
Lauren, just to confirm, none of this property is within natural heritage mapped habitat, isn't that correct?
I don't believe it is. I can double check really quick on Mass Mapper. Yeah, there's no priority. Let me just, I know we're ACEC, no priority, no, let me just, no estimated, yeah, no mapped natural heritage.
And it's not within any core habitat?
Core habitat. I'll check that one. Biomap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's biomap. Aquatic core. Biomap. Forest core. There's a few different layers, so bear with me as I pull them all up. For species. No, there's not. There's some offsite. I think it might be offsite on some conservation lands.
Not in the area where the impacts are, right?
No, not on the property at all, no.
Okay.
Good with it.
There's a vernal pool on the adjacent property.
On the adjacent property?
Yeah.
I think, do they have to be, is the terrestrial breeding grounds like 750 feet from a vernal pool or something like that?
Depends on the status of the vernal pool. If it's certified, it depends
Yes, it
on.
is.
When was it certified? I guess that's my question. Was it certified prior to the new regs in 2009?
Do you know when the vernal pool at Collins Place was certified, Bob?
I don't have the data on that.
Yeah.
How far away is
I
this?
can check.
How far away is this certified vernal pool from the impact area?
From the impact
I'll
area?
check that too. I think it's this one. Up, can you guys see? It's this little blue dot here.
Yeah, those are them.
It's the one you're referring to, Mr. Hunt, up here.
Yeah, probably is. Yeah.
Okay. So that. Oops. If we're going to measure from the edge of it, which it's about 100 feet off the property. And then that was certified in.
And then what's on the property is part of the land that's being donated to the Conservation Commission.
Is that vernal?
The building lots, I think, are.
On 2004, it was certified. Yeah, this, I can't tell on Mass Mapper how far it is from the development limits, but I could we could overlay that in GIS and figure that out.
It's well over
We
100
can.
feet from where we're
Yeah.
doing any development.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
And there's probably 50 to 100 feet of conservation land between the vernal pool and the house and lot. So it's probably a couple of 100 feet, I would say.
Is that going to be buffered by the open space land?
Yes.
So the open space land is going to act as a natural buffer.
Yep.
Between the development and the vernal pool.
Yes, it'll be about 120 feet of open space land, and then the lot will start.
Okay. All right, any other questions?
Bill, I went through this twice concerning that culvert that's going to take in some of the street drainage and,
Yes.
you know, drop it. I didn't see a cross-section in your other information of that particular culvert, because it says it's a 4x4, but the bottom is open.
That's right.
Elevation 170.5.
Yep.
But there was nothing about that in your other details. And is 170.5 the existing water elevation of the isolated?
Yes, so if you go on sheet 4.1, on the left, down on the left side, it shows the 4x4 precast concrete open bottom culvert.
Right. I see that, but I didn't see any details about it in your construction.
It's a
planning.
precast open bottom culvert. I mean, I don't put details of pipe in either, but, so I mean, it's precast open bottom culvert.
Just pointing it out.
Okay.
Is it gonna be regular natural soils of that area, or are you gonna have some sandiness or stones underneath it?
No.
No?
I mean, the culvert will, because it will have a footing underneath it. I'm just going to my sheets.
Would be something similar to what you did up at
Yes.
Lawson Farms?
Yes. But that's, it won't have river rock or anything in there because there's nothing flowing through that. Why can't I find that? Yeah, it's 4.1. So if you look at sheet 5.3, it gives the general specifications for the wall and the culvert. And it's just an open bottom culvert, embedded 2 feet, overlap. That's it.
I don't see it.
I think 5.4 has the culvert.
There's like a little paragraph on 5.3.
I mean, the culvert's just built into the wall, under the road. It's 4x4, it's,
Anything else, Mr. Hunt?
Yes, please. As far as open space goes, I know the commission seems to be very enthusiastic about getting 7 acres of open space. And, you know, open space is great, but are we going to do that at the cost of the water supply for 66,000 people and the possible elimination of a important wildlife corridor? That's something that you people need to gauge.
so as we pointed out, so there's different components of dealing with water quality. The 2 major ones are the road, stormwater. Already gone through that. Town's already reviewed it. I read it to you. We've gone over and above the standards. And then the second thing has to do with septic systems. So, and what we do here, if this was a water resource protection district, a zone 2, a water supply, which it's not. It's not a water supply for Sharon, it's not a water supply for Foxborough, it's not a water supply for Mansfield. So none of the wells from those towns draw from this area. But be that as it may. So if it was, let's just say, we would be limited to 1 bedroom for every 10,000 square feet of area because it's all about dilution, right? It's dilution. So 1 bedroom for 10,000 square feet of area would be the standard if it was a water resource protection district. We have 1 bedroom for every 15,000 plus square feet of area. So again, our standard is 50% higher than it would be required under Title V if this was considered a water resource protection district. Also, the fact that you have open space that's going to be protected forever, that sets it aside. Okay, yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot, but those just keep adding up. And now the commission will have open space around this very important corridor that we keep hearing about. And so I guess that's a good thing. So you'll be protecting the area all around the river. You'll have ownership of it, except for that grass area down there that Mr. Barbado Sr. owns, but the whole rest of it will be controlled by the commission. So we deal with protecting water supply through stormwater management, which we've talked about, and also it falls under Title V. And I've just pointed out that we're well within that standard. And, you know, that again is up to the Board of Health. We'll be dealing with that issue. And whether it's an open space or if it's a conventional subdivision, we could just go ahead and do a conventional subdivision and there would be no open space, and we would have 40 and 60,000 square foot lots. So you're gonna have the same number of bedrooms either way. We still think it's a good design. We think it fits in perfectly. It's not an open space where, you know, there's some parts of town, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but we have cluster subdivisions, but they're, I call them orphans. It's open space, it's an orphan. Commission isn't interested in it, neither is the town, so it's just a homeowners association that deals with it. This fits in with about 300 acres of existing open space in the back, which I showed you on one of my last meetings. So yeah, you can kind of sneeze at the fact that it's only 7 more acres out of 300, but you know, every piece counts. I think the commission, what did the town just take ownership of some land over on Willow Street? Or is looking at it? I forget. I thought Jane was looking at that.
Yeah.
So you just put these pieces together and they fit together and it's a little bit at a time. Yeah, it'd be wonderful to get 40 or 50 acres like, you know, you're gonna get over on Judge Brown's land. But that was just a few and far between.
Bob, I've been asking for someone to show on a map all the different areas of vegetated wetlands, bordering wetlands, isolated wetlands, areas prone to flooding, riverfront, buffer zone, high water mark, riparian, no disturb zone. Is there any chance of that getting?
That's on sheets 3.1 and 3.2.
We have all of that, Tom. You can look at it anytime you want.
Okay. And I had a question about the sidewalk. Who exactly went on the sidewalk?
Does it matter?
Yes,
Why?
it's public information.
I was there.
Yeah,
I was there.
Don was there.
okay.
I was there.
I was there.
Why weren't abutters allowed to go on that sidewalk?
It's private property. It's up to the landowner to control who comes onto their land.
Okay. I could have stayed on my own adjacent land and not gone on his land.
A sidewalk is not posted and is not required to be posted.
Just doesn't seem right that's part of an open hearing that.
No, we did not make any decisions.
Okay.
We observed only. We cannot make a decision on a sidewalk because it's not a posted meeting per se.
Okay.
So we only observe.
Okay. I had mentioned at the last meeting that the Army Corps of Engineers had commented on this area before, and I was told I was wrong, but did everybody see the letter I had from the Army Corps of Engineers?
I did not read the whole, you've given us a lot of information, Tom, and I have not read everything that you've sent in, quite frankly.
Fair enough. And the DEP, let me just find my police here. You were speaking of a DEP order previously. Is that the one that was issued on August 12th of 2009?
My memory is not that good.
It was, what was it? UAO order?
So, yeah, that was the order that was I guess, commissioned by DEP. That's what I was telling the commission about, and that's what I was telling the applicant about, that I'm hesitant to move forward with this until we get an understanding from the state as to close out parameters, because like Bill and I have kind of come to the consensus, I have never heard of this sort of order from the state before. So usually it only happens if there's a superseding order conditions, and then it comes to DEP and they have full authority. If it was, I just don't, I'm not, this is an atypical situation for me, because issuing authority and authority is kind of where I see it as. And if DEP is saying that the commission has the authority, I want to just make sure that the commission has the authority, which is kind of what I'd like to get an answer from the officials as we go on the site walk in a month or so. And I do plan to be out there with them to ask some questions, so.
Okay. So I've been at these hearings since 1980, when the first one was denied for Marlodge Estate, not Marlodge Real Estate. That particular one was for one house that was denied, and then, of course, we know 3 subsequent ones have been denied. I'm just asking you people to take a close look at this situation, and I guess that's about all I have to say.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions from the audience?
Sure.
Did you have a question, sir? You shook it? No? No, okay. Okay, anything else from the board? Continue it till we...
It would have to be continued to June, because our meeting in May would be before the DEP meeting.
Okay.
So we have to continue it to
Fine with you
June
guys?
3rd, if that's what you're waiting for.
Joe, you want to say something?
Need to make that?
What?
You want to say something?
Yeah,
Come on up to the mic and
should have gone up 2 hours ago.
No, do you want to say something about this?
No, no, no,
Okay,
no.
so.
With that,
Yeah, well, if that's the next day, that's fine.
okay.
I'll make that motion to continue.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. We got one-
Thank you, Lauren.
we got one more.
Thank you.
Where's my, okay. Mr. Lally, would you like to come up and talk about some flooding issues, sir?
Joseph Lally, I live at 61 Granite Street. As of August, we'll have been there 30 years. For 29, it was fine, but approximately a year ago, I went to the conservation agent at that time, Jane Pierce, to discuss with her the emergence of beavers in the cranberry bog, the 12-acre cranberry bog, which is adjacent to my house, which is conservation land. There's 2 areas in particular, a spillway in my backyard and a dam at the end of the Baker's property. It's on conservation land. That dam there was originally, I'm sure, when the cranberry bog was active to regulate water coming back and forth. Since then, the beavers have set up residence and caused considerable problems. Members of the Conservation Committee did make a site visit, and they saw that my backyard was flooded 20 feet into the yard, 2-3 inches of water. There are various ways of ameliorating this problem without disturbing the beavers. There's something called the beaver deceiver, where you can put a corrugated pipe through the dam, and there's a gate here, rather a cage not to capture the animals, but to prevent them from bothering the pipe. And that keeps the flow going. They still have their dam. They're happy there's water, and I can actually walk in my backyard.
Any cost estimates for something of that nature? The beaver deceiver?
I have no idea. I'm sure it'll be reasonably inexpensive.
One thing to consider, I'm familiar with the one that's on the Mass Audubon property in Norfolk, Stony Brook.
Pardon me?
I'm familiar with they have one of those setups, the beaver deceiver in Norfolk. And one thing you just have to keep in mind is there's some maintenance required with that. It's not, you set it up and it stays free. They try to build a dam around the deceiver.
They try to dam up
and
the
you
deceiver.
have to clear
I know, yeah.
like at a spillway particularly, you have to continually clear it. So I just want to, there is the initial cost of putting it in, but there is some maintenance required as well. Just so it's out there.
They associate the noise of water going through or over something. The beavers can hear the noise of the water gurgling, going over something or through something. They know that, well, we got to plug that up. And that's why it's a constant problem. The deceivers work to a point.
Right.
They still have to be maintained.
Just going by from what I've read in the Vermont, Department of Natural Resources, where because it's going under, that gurgling doesn't necessarily occur. Yes, the beavers can interact because they're pretty bright animals or whatnot. But in the meantime, I've got a flooded backyard.
Did it come back up? Because when we walked it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
It did come back up?
I mean, it's been a very wet year, but at the same time, for 29 years, we had wet years, and I had no problems.
Did you have issues back in 2018 and 2010?
No.
No? Okay. Those were wet years. Those were wet years, too. That's why I ask.
Yeah. What alternative do we have, John, legally or?
I mean, you got options. You can either have them trapped and removed, or you could kind of try to find a way to deter them. And, the issue that you run into is that once they're there, and do you know how many lodges are in the area?
No.
Looks like just one.
Just
Yeah, it
one.
looks like one. One good-sized one that's been there.
So one lodge can house 8 to 10 beavers. It depends on how big the lodge is. If it's a small lodge, that's probably 8 to 10. But if it's a large lodge, you could be dealing with a lot more. I guess I'd have to look at it and kind of give you guys an assessment and evaluation to think if this potentially could be something that's easily maintainable. Obviously, we then also need to talk about funds and kind of things of that nature and maintenance and upkeep and things of that nature because it's a requirement that we're going to have to basically secure. Also, we also want to make sure that, for instance, we're not putting any other residents here at harm, flooding potential issues and things of that nature either as well. So I can definitely take a look at it. I can add it to my list of things to take a look at and see if one of these diverters could potentially be something that we could potentially put in.
Sure. I know, David had been there to see it, so I mean.
Yeah.
Dave, what are your thoughts?
Rich and I were there to take a visit. Thank you for the time. And your neighbor, the Bakers, right? Yeah, we walked with them the whole site. I did some research. The property line in the rear appears to be the center of the stream coming out of the Cranberry Bog area. Now, where our line is versus the Bakers, based on the old deeds I went through, it appears that the sluiceway, half of it is ours, half of it is the Bakers.
Okay.
And then the question is, where does our line go to around the Cranberry Bog that was donated by Mrs. Miller, I think? Yeah. Down to your backyard and down to the culvert that goes underneath your house and the Bakers. So first thing is the Board of Health has to determine if there's a public problem. And they have 7 criteria that they have to go through. Then if there is, but it's not adversely affecting public safety, public health, wells, septic systems, then it shifts to the Conservation Commission to manage it. Thing is, though, if it's on private property, the private owner can also manage it with the help of the local Concom, because we're supposed to protect the wetland areas.
So am I hearing that if we put in some sort of device, then, for instance, maybe the Bakers would be willing to maintain it?
I haven't broached them on that. It's a sluiceway.
Yeah, the device wouldn't work on a sluiceway, would it?
Is it a sluiceway?
the sluice.
They've got a dam on there.
See, I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
Sluiceway
Yeah.
is a piece of concrete going across, like a weir.
I know what a sluiceway is,
But
yeah.
it was a weir like this that used to have boards in it.
Yeah.
The water has also gone around the edges
Okay.
because it's gotten so high and it's worn it out.
Okay.
So they block up the weir part, and then
Mhm.
they try to block up the sides, which
Mhm.
makes it higher.
Yeah.
Where we could put that device in, it's not that deep.
Okay.
And you'd have to go through the sluice. The weir is not low enough to go with a device like that.
The place that they were looking at was, there's a dam right on their property that flows through, and that gets built up as well with sticks. Your wife, I believe, said she.
Right, we keep it clear, but no, they come back.
Is there a place where it could be bypassed?
I think so.
You'd have to dig something out to try to bypass the sluiceway in the back. They have the big culvert of the Cranberry Bog outlet on their property that goes under both properties.
Okay.
Because there used to be some mills in the past that used to utilize the water in that area.
I'd really have to see it to give you guys, or at least see a drawing or some sort of conceptual kind of thing to really give you a
I
better.
have pictures of it,
I mean, anything would help. I mean, just to kind of get a sense as to kind of what potentially could be a solution to the current situation.
Part of the flow actually goes under the neighbor's back porch.
Okay.
Stone porch, and the river flows right underneath it and comes out.
Wow.
20 feet away from their porch.
It used to be
don't have
numerous
pictures of the
mills.
sluiceway.
No, that's fine.
The house had numerous mills in it.
Oops.
Sorry.
It's on gold.
So that's the flooding issue there, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I?
No, no, no.
All right. Okay.
This house.
Is that right?
That's my God, Steve.
Yeah. Yeah, it's flooded out.
Does own-
No, I don't think so.
No, this had happened.
They used hydro,
Right.
hydropower.
Big old,
Did have a lot of water, but yeah, I do agree. Okay. So I guess I have to see the outlet to kind of get a sense as to kind of
Now, this is
what
going
the
down Granite
options.
Street.
So that's that.
yeah, they're up the street from.
Baker Street, getting Aunt Baker.
Okay.
And it
The same
flows
family?
right.
Okay.
Yeah, they
dammed that up pretty good.
Yeah, for 30 plus years, they've owned, 36 years, they've owned that.
Oh, okay.
It comes out
And then
about
a nice piece of property.
20 feet from
They
their
got
house.
4 acres plus
Okay.
acres of land in the
Now,
back.
I've walked down Granite Street,
Couple
all the way beyond that, but I haven't,
You wouldn't
Well,
see
they
it.
had an option.
okay.
Yeah, I know.
I have to go look at it.
Couple options off the top of my head.
There isn't much in there.
But that's for offline discussion.
This is the beginning.
Sometimes they would sell the house, they don't want to develop it. But that is-
Understood, yeah.
All right, another site visit for you.
So I think we're gonna take discussions on this offline.
Okay.
And find a solution.
All
That's what
right.
I just said, so.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, you're gonna be part of the discussion.
Did we get this Panas Road squared away, the parcel?
I think that's what Bill's here for.
What's that?
Bill's still here. Talk about Panas Road.
Oh,
It's between Bill and Jim.
We got rid of him.
So,
I know how to get rid of beef.
so the original property was split, right? So you had an order issued, and the original property was split, right? After the order was issued by the commission.
Yes.
Okay. So now we're just essentially carving out a further piece. So my thought was, I mean, you've created this piece already, right? It's already been sold? No.
No, it has not
It's
been
not?
sold, but it's been created. The planning board has signed off on it.
Okay. I mean,
We're talking about that small piece that they want to
Can-
build.
can we
Building
issue,
on.
I'm gonna,
where there's no activity? Never?
no, there's no activity on it. There's no activity on it under the order we're asking for release from. There's gonna be activity on it under the new order you've issued.
Right.
Yeah. But for the old order, or the existing order, that was
Yes.
never closed out, can we just reference to the meets and bounds of that piece, which is being carved out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, what I would say, I'm trying to call it up, because of course,
I think you called it Lot 1A or something like that, right?
Yeah,
Show it on a plan.
shown on a plan. We created the lot. Why can't I find it? It's Panas Road.
Parcel A.
Oh, no, I know it's not. It's on the Perry Drive. Got it.
That's what it's written as.
Yeah, parcel A. You called it parcel A.
Parcel A.
Yeah, because that's what we called it on the reference plan. But here's,
And just ensure the language within the partial doesn't include any other land.
It says just parcel A.
Yeah, that's it. Or any other work, or work.
right,
But did the order run out?
It's expired, yeah.
It expired for the,
it's expired and no work has been done on that portion of the property.
right.
So they've got to, someone's got to go out there and confirm on the other areas outside of that piece that's being sold, that you're in compliance with the work that you're allowed to do.
We're doing that now.
Yeah.
So
We're
Lauren,
working on the remainder of it right now.
yeah, we're working on it. John and I have already talked how we're gonna go down that
So
road.
we're protected as the commission to ensure that that work gets done, right? And we're just carving out this piece, this Lot A.
Actually, the building never got built on that parcel yet, but got disturbed.
Yep, it's all disturbed. So what we're doing is, Lauren is going out tomorrow, I think, and you're gonna inventory the wetland restoration areas and replication areas. I'm sure they're a disaster. And then she's gonna write a report, and we're gonna come back in, I think, next month, May, probably that same meeting we're talking about. And she's gonna give her report of what's gonna be done, and we're gonna give it to our client. Then they're gonna get people to go out and do it. And then I'm gonna file a request for determination of applicability to stabilize all that disturbed area. And what we're gonna just do is clean all those piles of stuff out there. Excuse me. And then I think, I don't know this because they haven't decided, we're either just gonna gravel it or we're gonna just seed it, seed the rest of it. So we'll figure that out and we'll be back in with that too. But you're right. I
Yeah, I
mean,
have no problem. It's fine.
Now, the parcel that was built upon, there was a replication around the bridge, if I
Yes,
recall.
yep.
But the replication on the other side never got done.
replication on the other side never got done, and that was for, I think that was for like 10. And then we wrapped it into 35 and 45, I forget, but you're right. They were supposed to do stuff on the right side.
Right.
And now that my clients are gone, I'm gonna tell you, they kept saying, we got to do something there. I'm like, no, you're not. That's replications. I think they just thought they were gonna outlast us. They didn't. So, yeah, that's definitely, nothing's been done on that.
Now, if I recall that, behind that building, there was another replication area, wasn't there, or restoration?
45, so as you come in the driveway, that's 35.
Right.
45 is to the left, and they did a restoration to the left of 45 as you look at it, because they went into the 25-foot no-touch zone. So they had to do a restoration in that area, and they did it, and we did tons of reports on it. But again, that's something else Lauren will look at to see what it looks like today.
Is that order is expired too?
It's the same
They
one.
never got a certificate.
It's all under this, it was
All-
under the
all
same
the same
permit.
one?
Yeah.
Because it was one parcel.
Right.
There was always one parcel. And then when they sold the land, they split it into two parcels, actually three parcels, actually four parcels. So they gave the farmer some, and the farmer paid him back by whatever. Farmer some, and then they gave that house, got its own lot, 45's on its own lot, and 35's on its own lot. But at the time we did the permit, which you granted, it was one big lot. So we're working on it. They're focused. They didn't realize that they had all these open orders when they bought it, which is shocking. But we'll be back in the next month or so, once Lauren figures out what's going on, and we'll brief you on how we're moving forward with this. And we'll keep John, of course, in the loop.
Yeah, that works for me. You just have,
The language has not changed from the last time I spoke about it, so You want me to just read it out for you?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it says, "The portion of the parcel covered by this certificate of compliance did not have any work proposed under 157515 and is shown as parcel A on an approval not required plan of land by Bay Colony Group dated 3/11/2024 and contains 36,355 square feet." Does that seem right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. That works for me.
All right, so I have paper here.
Okay. You got the signature pages?
That's what I have right here.
Okay. You want to make the motion, Mr. Marsh?
Make a motion as to issuing a partial certificate of compliance as read by the agent for
157515.
you got it, 3445 Panas Road, DEP.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Hey,
Opposed? All right.
Yay.
Pleasant Street, if you got a,
So this was a partial was issued a couple of years ago, and now they're selling the property again, but something about the lot number wasn't listed right or something, documents, I don't know. I had the guy fill it out for me, so it's filled out what he wants it to say. Because it was land court plans were involved, and they weren't referenced the last time.
So this was an interesting one because 30 Pleasant Street is not within conservation's jurisdiction. It's not in the buffer zone. It's not anywhere within our jurisdiction. So legally, we don't have to make a motion to sign anything, but if the commission wants to just provide them this certificate that says that the project is not subject to the Wetlands Protection Act, then, I mean, or the.
why do we
local
have
bylaw.
it?
Well, didn't you have a policy back then where they looked
Yeah,
at the
it
whole
was-
subdivision, not just the
It was
road?
one of those, the whole subdivision fell under this.
So this is an interesting kind of process, because typically when certain parcels, certain lots aren't subject to the Wetlands Protection Act nor the bylaw, usually I say don't involve them, don't include them in any sort of permit applications, or don't make reference to them in an order of conditions, because they'd say in past ones, the following lots are subject to this order of conditions. And that was not, I don't think, in the order of conditions, so.
Right, this goes back to 2007.
Okay, I know Dave used to do them one way, and then Jane came in and started changing, so
So it's basically administrative, but they want it, because
Okay.
they already have one, but now they want another
I
one.
think
That
just
is
to-
this land court plan.
Just to appease the applicant request, I think it's probably in the best interest of the commission to just
sign it.
Release it, but for instance, the lot is not subject to any jurisdiction, so.
Okay.
Generally, we do them as administrative.
Yeah, so.
Good night, thank you.
Good night, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Somebody want to make a motion? Just sign partial certificate of compliance?
Make a motion to sign the partial certificate of compliance for, this is,
30 Pleasant.
yeah, DEP 157-443.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty. Station Road. Did we sign the pumping station road earlier? I
Yes,
did
you
check
did.
it off on my list
You
here.
did, yes,
Okay.
because you closed it too.
Yeah, okay. For our next meeting, we're, time to reorganize the board. We got chairman to elect, clerk, vice chair, committee assignments. So think about them. Who wants to run for chair?
I think somebody's going to be unopposed.
Everybody laugh at once. Vice chair? Whatever, so.
Sure.
With that, Do you have
Dave,
anything else, John?
I will not be here at the next meeting.
Okay.
does Dave want to do his minutes? We got 2 sets.
What's that?
2 sets of minutes.
Oh. David, you didn't speak up.
You didn't ask.
Okay,
Touche.
you're right, okay.
No, Mary.
The first set of minutes is March 18th, 2024. And basically, we started with the public hearing for 204 East Street. And then there was a discussion about the Lane Property Fishing Derby bylaw, notice of intent, and 46 Ridge Road, notice of intent amendment, and the Ridge Road subdivision itself. Then we also picked up mitigation of the activities by the YMCA on the other side of Robinson Brook that no one was aware of and how to resolve them. And you have a meeting coming up on that, don't you?
Yeah, Wednesday,
No, when?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
There? At that place, yeah.
Yeah, at YMCA.
And those were the minutes of a fairly long meeting. The only thing I have is on the second page, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th paragraph. It says, "There will not be a bridge. The river bank and the BVW will not be touched. There will be work in the riverfront." And after that, it's ILSF. I think it's supposed to be IVW, Isolated Vegetated Wetland.
Isolated land subject to flooding.
There's no work in
Is this one,
isolated
is this in reference to 204?
Yeah.
land. Yes.
Isn't it both? I thought that was kind of the determination, that it was both ILSF and also IVW.
No, it says there will be work in the riverfront and isolated vegetated wetland and the bordering land subject to flooding. That's what, basically, they mentioned that again tonight.
So, yeah, I
So it
think,
would be ILSF, yeah.
I think they mentioned it as being ILSF. At least Lauren indicated that it was ILSF. I remember her saying that.
I can just add IVW to it and list all 3 of them.
IVW, yeah.
Okay.
She did reference that, so, I mean, that's something that we can ask after, at the next meeting that they have, because my understanding is that the area meets criteria for an IBW and potentially an ILSF too, so.
Okay.
Both share the same, under the local bylaw, same restrictions.
And on page, we'll amend that and put that in. On page 3 of 5, this is dealing with the fishing derby discussion. Did we ever get a copy of the aerial plan that shows the 18 areas to be trimmed?
Yeah, it was part of their application.
It was part of the application?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one of the things that I think I said that was a good idea for the commission to have.
Other than that one particular amendment, I feel that these minutes are very accurate.
Okay, you making a motion?
Oh, I can make a motion? Okay, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second it.
You get second discussion? All in favor?
Right?
Opposed? None? All right.
And the next set of minutes was April 1st. Basically, we did 25 Pumping Station Road, notice of intent. And back again to Ridge Road subdivision, continued hearing. Then potential violation, Lawson Farms, Goodwin Drive, and a request for a partial certificate of compliance at 3545 Panas Road. That was to be continued after Jim and Bill were going to have a discussion about this, and also John. And then we had the mitigation update by Mr. Jordan at 16 Garrett's Plain Road. And basically, those are the minutes. The only thing that, second page, first paragraph, when you go down near the end of the paragraph, the basin will be a dry basin most of the time. The roof and parking drains will be both infiltrated before draining into the basin. And then a motion was made by Mr. Marsh to continue the hearing for 25 Pumping Station Road. Thing is that there's nowhere in here for a reason to continue the public hearing.
Because
There's
they were
always a
doing,
reason.
We
the
never
peer
asked
review
for-
needed to be done.
Well,
Because
we had the DEP number, the applicant didn't ask for a continuance, and we didn't ask any questions in these minutes.
So you were the one that asked a question about the previous past historic permits. So that should have been noted in the minutes. I don't know if it was.
Probably not, but I can have it.
Because that was the reason for continuing, was because we had an open permit.
Right.
And that was the reason why we continued.
Okay, but it wasn't put in here.
So then
No,
it,
that discussion wasn't in here.
so then it needs to be put in there.
Right.
So then, for instance, the reason why the continuance was made was because there was an open-ended permit that needed to be closed, which is why they submitted that request for a certificate this evening.
Yeah.
So we just need to add that language in there.
And the peer review wasn't done yet at the time.
And the peer review was not done at the time, yes. Good catch.
Other than that, I feel as amended, those two issues, the minutes were accurate.
So you want to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? None? Anything else?
Let's go home. Don't forget, town election, town meeting,
Yes?
Motion to adjourn?
then you can come back.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
So
Good
this-
night, all.
this-